Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov concluded his UN week with a blistering address at the General Assembly and a hard-hitting press conference, taking aim at NATO, the West, Ukraine, Iran, Israel, and the UN Secretariat itself. Lavrov framed today's global tensions as a betrayal of the very UN principles established after World War II.
Principles of its charter agreed upon by the founding fathers of our organization continue to serve as a shining beacon of international cooperation. The only thing that remains is for all member states, without exception, to adhere to those principles in full, in their entirety, and as they are interconnected.
He accused NATO of breaking promises and provoking confrontation through eastward expansion and open talk of conflict.
The aggression against my country will be met with a decisive response. There should be no doubt about this among those in NATO and the EU, who not only are telling their voters that war with Russia is inevitable and are forcing them to tighten their belts, but are also openly talking about preparations for an attack on our Kaliningrad Oblast and other Russian territories.
On Ukraine, Lavrov repeated Moscow's 2014 anti-constitutional coup narrative and highlighted the treatment of Russian speakers.
Ukraine is the only country in the world that has legislatively banned the use of the native language of almost half of its population. Arabic is not banned in Israel, and Hebrew is not banned in Arab countries and Iran, but Russian is banned in Ukraine. Let me remind you that Article 1 of the UN Charter states the need for respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion.
He emphasized that Moscow remains open to negotiations, provided its core security interests are met.
And its vital interests must be reliably guaranteed. The rights of Russians and Russian-speaking people in the territories that remain under the control of the Kiev regime must be restored in full. On this basis, we are ready to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine.
Lavrov also challenged Western narratives on battlefield incidents and drone strikes in Poland.
We never target with our UAVs or missiles on the countries in Europe, be that EU members or NATO countries.
He sharply criticized renewed UN sanctions on Iran, calling the snapback mechanism a Western trap, and condemned Israeli actions in Gaza.
However, there is no justification for the brutal killings of the civilian population of Palestine or for terrorist attacks. There is also no justification for the collective punishment of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, where Palestinian children are dying from bombing and starvation. Hospitals and schools are being destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of people are being left without shelter. There is no justification for plans to annex the West Bank.
Turning to the UN Secretariat, Lavrov accused Secretary-General Antonio Guterres of stacking key posts with NATO nationals.
Our Secretary-General is the citizen of a NATO member state. The head of the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs is a citizen of a NATO member state as well. The head of the Department of Peacekeeping Operations is also a citizen of a NATO member country.
Despite the fiery rhetoric, Lavrov welcomed dialogue with Washington, praising the Trump administration for restoring pragmatic talks and noting a third round of negotiations on embassy issues. He also highlighted deepening ties with India, calling it a particularly privileged strategic partnership, and defended New Delhi's Russian oil purchases as India's own business. Lavrov concluded by warning that global power has shifted irreversibly toward the global majority and called for a return to true UN principles to prevent another world war.